Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is flaunt, and this is another verb that has been recommended by Luis, and I want to say a special thank you for making this suggestion. Now, let's talk about or look at some of the ways we use this verb flaunt. The first way you may hear or see it used is to mean to display something in a showy way. And by showy, I want you to think of attracting attention, getting someone, or many people in this case, to look at or pay attention to something. And the reason, the motivation to want that attention might be that you are trying to make someone envious. You want them to feel like, ooh, I want that. But a second reason sometimes we might use this verb flaunt is to show defiance, which might mean kind of like, I don't have to follow the rules. I'm different, or I'm better for this reason. So those are two main sort of motivations about displaying something. Many times when people think of this verb, the first thing that comes to mind is wealth. So somehow displaying that you have a lot of money, or maybe you were given something that has a large, high dollar value to it. Now, a second way the verb flaunt gets used can mean to dress or behave in a provocative way. So again, we can still think of that word showy. So this might be something that someone is dressing in a way that maybe shows a lot of skin. It accentuates certain body parts. As I make these videos, I'm always looking for real examples of how this is being used. And I want to note here, with this second definition, you can see lots of examples of this verb being used. Many times it's being used with women, actors, singers, models, people that are celebrities, famous people. And many times it's sort of said in a negative way. So I'm not going to do a lot of examples because I think some of our ways of using this verb sometimes can be a bit sexist or chauvinistic. And so I don't want to continue that or judge someone for how they choose to dress. But you still might hear or see examples of it. So I want you to be aware of that. Now, a third way you might hear the verb flaunt used is to mean to wave or flutter, again in sort of a showy manner or showily. For now, you should know that flaunt is a regular verb. To make the progressive form of this verb, all you need to do is add ing to form flaunting. The past tense and participle forms of this verb can be made by adding ed. Our base verb, flaunt, ends with a T sound. This means that we're going to make an id sound with the ed spelling. So we're going to add an extra syllable to the verb when we make the past tense or participle forms. It should sound like this: flaunted, flaunted. Okay. You might be happy to know no additional phrasal verbs for us to study today. So instead, we can move on and talk about how we use this verb in different verb tenses. Today, I thought we would practice the simple past tense and the present progressive. Let's start with the simple past tense. We use this verb tense to talk about completed actions that occurred at a known point in time. Many times in simple past tense sentences, we see time signals. This could be words like yesterday, or a phrase like 4 days ago. Ago is one of those signals for the past tense. You might even see a specific date. But not every sentence that uses the simple past tense will have a time signal. Many times, the idea that the action is completed is implied as part of a longer conversation or as part of a longer text. The nice thing about making sentences in the simple past tense is that our structure stays the same no matter what our subject is. So, in the affirmative, we start with our subject. Right? This can be a he, she, it, etc. they, what? And then we use that ed form of the verb. You can see that in my example here. Those text messages flaunted their success. Okay? So here, again, someone is trying to really make it known that something was successful. Now, if you want to make a negative simple past tense sentence, to do that, we start with a subject, we use did, not, and then the base verb. So notice in the negative, I'm not using the ed form. Okay? An example of a negative sentence might be, we didn't flaunt the rules. That phrase, flaunt the rules, really goes back to the first definition we talked about, where someone is doing something in defiance. So maybe it seemed to someone else that they were breaking a rule. And here, right, this person is disagreeing. We did not do that, in order to defy or cause attention to be shown. Now let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple past tense. To do this, you start with did, then you're going to have your subject, and then the base verb. Again, notice we are not using the ed form of the verb in our yes or no questions. Okay? We're only using ed in the affirmative, not in a negative and not in a yes or no question. My last simple past tense example is, did he flaunt his lavish lifestyle on social media? Right? So posting lots of pictures, maybe showing expensive items he has purchased, or expensive vacations, things of that nature, right? So kind of showing off. Now let's move on and talk a little bit about the present progressive. Many teachers and textbooks will call this the present continuous, and that is totally fine. We use the present progressive or present continuous to talk about actions that are happening now or actions that are in progress during an uncompleted time period, right? So a time period that hasn't finished. We might also notice the present progressive being used to talk about the future. This can be done when you're talking about plans. Many times we're thinking about firm plans, like we have committed or we have decided that we are doing a particular action. And it's not something we're just considering, something that just isn't a possibility. We've made a plan to do it. Now, whether you're using present progressive to talk about something happening now or something in the future, the structure is going to stay the same. We must pay attention to our subject when making present progressive sentences, and that's because we're going to have subject, we're going to use a present form of be, and then we're going to use the ing form of our verb. And the present form of be has 3 forms, right? So if my subject is I use am, and then that ing form the verb. If my subject is he, she, or it, I use is, and then the ing form the verb. Finally, if my subject is you, we, or they, I use are, A-R-E, and then the ing form the verb. Let's take a look at an example. The first affirmative here is, the flag is flaunting in the breeze, right? That goes back to that third definition. Now let's talk about negative sentences in the present progressive. To do this, again, we're going to pay attention to our subject. We're going to use the form of be that matches, then not, and then the ing form the verb. You can see this in my example. The celebrity couple isn't flaunting their relationship. They have avoided being in public places together. Okay, so here they are not behaving in a really showy manner, trying to get attention. This sounds like we're describing 2 people who are trying to keep their relationship very private. So we'll move on now and talk about making some yes or no questions in the present progressive. To do this, you start with the form of be, whatever form matches your subject. That subject comes next. Then we're going to use the ing form of the verb. You can see this in the last example. Are they flaunting their wealth while so many others are struggling? Okay. Can be a really difficult thing to do sometimes, or to see. This I think was especially true during the pandemic, and with so many people struggling with their health or losing jobs, then seeing photos of people having excessive wealth, and could feel really horrible. So this verb flaunt, I would say, really comes with some judgment when we use it. Many times people might be suggesting with the use of this verb that they don't think you should be sharing or be showing off as much as one might be. Now, let's spend a moment looking at some words and phrases that are related to our verb flaunt. And the first word we're going to talk about today is the adjective flaunty. So again, this means that someone or something is inclined to be showy or vain. Another way to think about that would be to be attention seeking, right? Looking for. An example of this adjective in a sentence might be, we are so tired of her flaunty behavior, right? So whatever sort of action she's doing, someone here might think it's all for others to pay attention to. Okay? Now, another word you might encounter is flauntingly. This is an adverb. You can tell that with the suffix, that ly there. And it means that someone is behaving in a way that shows or makes obvious that you are proud of something else. An example of this might be, in the 1950s, parents were startled by Elvis Presley's flauntingly provocative hip movements. So, if you don't know who Elvis Presley is, don't worry. But this person had a certain way of dancing that really shocked people, and kind of made others think, wow, that person is really seeking attention. Right? One last thing for us to discuss today. It's a phrase that you might encounter, and this phrase can be modified slightly, but generally the way people use it is, if you've got it, flaunt it. Okay? Now with this phrase, someone is encouraging another person to be confident and maybe not be so modest, right? They're really encouraging you to be showy. So an example of how this might work would be most common in a conversation. So maybe one friend is trying on some clothes and they're not sure if it looks good. Maybe ask their other friend, do you think this outfit is too revealing, right? Friend B might say something like, you look great, your workouts are really paying off. If you've got it, you should flaunt it, right? So here they're suggesting, you look fantastic, let everybody see it. Be confident in your appearance. Thanks once again for watching today's video, and thanks, Louise, for this suggestion. I hope you all have a wonderful day.